What am I supposed to do? Sit around and wait for you? Well, I can't do that. And there's no turning back.
What am I supposed to do? Yeah. Sit around and wait for you again. There's no turning back. Do you believe in love? I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think it's strong enough.
Does anyone know the significance of that song for the end of humanity? People in the future would have known, should have warned the rest of us, but anyone? I heard someone in the back say.
Auto-tune?
Auto-tune, that is correct. This was the first song to use auto-tune in it. And nowadays, 99% of all pop music use auto-tune. They've taken our soul language and wrapped it together with automation and robotics. What does that mean to be a human? So, welcome to Radio Gaga, mixtape for the end of humanity. I'm your author and DJ, Stephanie Bolsara. Thanks for coming, everyone, today. So, as we listen about the end of humanity, let's think of both our voices, our singing, our bodies, our body shapes, and every way in which humanity is changing and growing in the age of automation. So, shall we get started? Humanity is dead. Long live humanity! The soothsayers promised a cataclysmic event. The authors warned that an organized regime would cripple the bodies and destroy the spirits of a brave and noble species. But no. Oh, to be sure, humans brought their own downfall, but not through a cool and coordinated system. Always bet on human obliviousness. Worry not, this is not the end of humanity. I carry their last remnants with me as I soar through the universe along that Starlight Express. Answer me yes. But who were these humans? My home planet formed 4.6 billion years ago. Through a fluke, living organisms sprouted here 800 million years later. Over the next 3.7 billion years, random evolution transpired before one species awoke with sentience, the ability to understand itself, its surroundings, and began to be conscious of the universe that created them. But they would never understand enough to save themselves. You're wondering who I am? Secret, secret. I've got a secret.
Go on, who I
We're now aware that it was I who put the bump in the bump. I put the ram in the ram-a-lam-a-ding-dong. My mission? I whir through space-time to promising galaxies eager to bring the glories and follies of humanity to a life form not yet known to exist. I am the emissary for an extinct race. Somewhere out there, beyond the pale moonlight, we'll find one another in that big somewhere out there.
Somewhere out there, beneath the we'll find one another. Yes. In that big somewhere out there.
With years to kill in the vast ocean between the pebbles we call planets, I have time to think, time to process, and time to construct the history that led to the downfall of this careless species. Time is on my side. Yes, it is. I am their sole survivor, their representative, the evangelizer of their words. So it seems fitting that I write this species' epic eulogy. As I fly, I sing dirges in the dark. Bye-bye, Miss American Pie. In 3 days, I overtake Voyager 2. In 5 days, I pass Voyager 1. Each of these probes swims through the vast expanse of nothingness, past our solar system's edge, carrying gold-plated audio discs. Like this one. These are the farthest reaches of any intentional attempt at communicating with other life forms. The discs contain songs, human greetings in 55 languages, the sounds of whales, the cries of babies, and waves breaking on an Earth's shore. But these time capsules are like grains of sand dropped in an ocean. It's unfathomable that any intelligent life will bump into these. It will take 70,000 years before Voyager 1 comes remotely close to this nearest sun, the nearest star system, Alpha Centauri. On the other hand, it will take me only 4 years and 3 months. But I'll never catch the careless whispers that have leaked from Earth for more than 200 years, racing at the speed of light. Saxophone solo. As the music dies, something in your eyes calls to mind the silver screen and all its sad goodbyes. Radio. A human named Marconi harnessed the lowest end of the electromagnetic spectrum, which humans called radio waves. He briefly dreamed that this technological advancement could unite humanity because it was a cheap and easy way to create dialogue. His vision was hijacked by pop songs and talk radio shows, which sowed only divisions into his species. In a few decades, these radio waves are made strong enough to be pumped around the planet. But Earth isn't surrounded by some sort of thick glass orb, so these waves seep through the stratosphere to the universe. Any alien race able to detect these radio transmissions and then translate the intricacies of human languages would only hear ridiculous misconceptions about human societies and the climate of their planet. They would learn that Earth rains men, every specimen, tall, blonde, dark, and lean.
It's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men. Every specimen, tall, blonde, dark, and lean.
God bless Mother Nature. She's a single woman too. They would learn that a fusion of these messages around the universe only brings confusion. This alien race would learn about a sacred place called MacArthur Park, which melts in the dark with all its sweet green icing flowing down. They try to decipher the correlation between these carefully juxtaposed statements. New Kids on the Block had a bunch of hits, but Chinese food makes me sick. They would wonder how humans could promise to do anything for love, but no, humans would not do that. They'd imagine that humans spend much of their time contemplating the most profound mysteries. Who let the dogs out? Who? And what did the fox say? Waka 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 wow? Hutty 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 how? Above all else, these listeners would be amazed to learn that humans' favorite pastime was sex. 92% of these musical messages to the universe mention human sexual reproduction. Humans had sex everywhere. Sex in the club, sex in the kitchen while cutting up tomatoes, fruits, vegetables, and potatoes. On the bathroom floor, on the counter, on the sofa, in the shower, on camera. It wasn't me. Their fantasy might include sex in the library, on top of books, but they can't be too loud. In the DJ booth, on the beach, in the Georgia Dome, at the 50-yard line, in a public bathroom, in the back of a classroom, however humans want it. Humans' diversity in locations was almost matched by the variety of sexual acts. These interstellar messages inform any listeners how humans enjoyed eating booty like groceries, eating chocha out like a vulture, and doing a doggy so both partners can watch a television program called X-Files. Humans use their tasting organs to look each other's necks, backs, licks their pussies, and their cracks. But only after all ladies had popped their pussies like this. After all this, humans wouldn't fall in love, but only fall for that super sperm. Even with this knowledge, I doubt any alien race could define the logic in humanity's sex laws. Though these messages have traveled for more than 200 light years from Earth, some 900 trillion miles from their planet, these waves attenuate, growing weaker the farther they fly. But not me. I'm focused, and I'm stronger. My warnings will be heard. I will ring the alarm. I've been through this too long. I can still hear the last humans, their faces pocked and oozing pus, urging me, don't become some background noise. On you, we depend.
Some background noise. On you we depend.
Radio Goo Goo, come on, sing along. Radio Gaga. All we hear is Radio Gaga. Radio Goo Goo. Radio Gaga. All we hear is Radio Gaga. Radio Gaga. Radio wants you. Someone still loves you. Okay, everyone, I'm going to need you all to open up your books. So, one of the themes in the book is that pop culture is the opiate of the masses. And as religiosity decreases all around the world, what we're replacing it with is our pop songs, our pop music, and our pop narratives, which are just full of which are like secular consumerist narratives that are pushing us to buy, to consume, and to look certain ways and to feel certain ways, not to have any sort of goodness to them. So I would love to do some call and response with you as if we were in some sort of religious setting. And this is going to be a hymn for hymns. So I need everyone to turn to page 212, and I need some folks with some masculine energy to come on up here. I think I got someone right here in the front row.
Okay, all right.
Come right this way. Too
My
well.
debut.
Too well. Come on up. Random sir, I've never met you before. And who else? You. Come on up. Come on up. So we're all gonna read this hymn together and then ask these three lovelies to dance for us too. What?
Oh, I'm ready for this.
Is everyone else following along with the first song, the first hymn? I'm Too Sexy. Is everyone ready?
Oh, 2, 1, 2.
3, 2, 1. I'm too sexy for my cat. Too sexy for my cat. Poor pussy. Poor pussy cat. I'm too sexy for my love. Too sexy for my love. Love's gonna leave me. And I'm too sexy for this song. Okay. And please, entertain us. Entertain us. And thank you, everyone. Now, just imagine one alien race about 20 light years from here has just gotten that song. What will they think of us? What will they decide and realize when they hear how brilliant that was? Okay, so I'd like to introduce you one of the main characters of the book. His name is Brandon. And let me get this set on up. I'm going to skip a few pages, introduce his parents, and then introduce him, and talk about the becoming of age ceremony, the most sacrosanct ceremony in the bougies, the upper class, the hyper-wealthy individuals who at the age of 16 go through intense plastic surgery transformations to look beautiful. You see, all the futurist and sci-fi authors had always promised us that we would have bionic vision or super strong titanium arms, but no. The body modifications that people are getting, spending upwards of $50 billion a year on, are the same cookie-cutter boob jobs, nose jobs, chin shavings, and lip implants. Isn't it wonderful? Okay. Human number 8675309 had been selected in the 4th year of his life as a potential shell, the corpus for the corporation. His mother, an Alpha Plus petty bougie, Jamae von Fistenberger, entertained 87 million humans as they strained on toilets and sulked in offices as one of the most successful Instagram models. She made a perfectly cromulent petty fortune from her keen eye for cross-promotions. She would henna tattoo parts of her white body monthly with logos for whichever sponsor was the highest bidder. Feet by Dr. Scholl's, tramp stamp by Colin Blow Tea, arms by Chef Boyardee Cans, food for kids, workout weights for moms. Lips by Maybelline. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's 2 pounds of liquid cement injected weekly. Brows by Tweezers and a bow above her belly button with a logo and motto for cool scoting. Freeze your fat away. She was a walking, posing billboard that was stripped monthly and shellacked with new advertisements. We'll quickly skip over the part where his father goes through some tragic health issues. But after 3 days in the For 3 days, his father was in the burn unit. He was released with strict instructions to slather his cheeks with antibiotic cream thrice daily to thwart infection. Instead, he teamed up with the only company he could find to sponsor his recovery, Fuzzier, a naturopathic drug company. He agreed to use only its patented tinctures of lavender oil, rose hips, and St. John's wort to bring down the pussing and scarring. Septicemia set in on the 6th day. On the 7th day, with a stomach full of Fuzzier brand name probiotics, amoxicillin and penicillin, his body went into septic shock. His liver, lungs, and kidneys shut down, and he died. Jermaine looked positively radiant at the funeral in a beaded black mermaid dress by Giovanni. And Brandon was dapper in a Cuccinelli trucks and won hearts worldwide with his well-choreographed JFK Jr. salute to his father's casket. Thankfully, that black veil pulled her out of the red. Casket by the Container Store, wake fruit by Edible Arrangements, cremation by Zippo Lighters, and bejeweled urn by pipcups.com. She was cash flow positive again. Her bankruptcy lawyer represented Jermaine pro bono. Sonny Vanderfeller was a beta hot bougie who dreamed of finding significance for his life through the adoration of politics. He abandoned days lounging by his infinity pool and weekends on his yacht flotilla to sacrifice a decade as Pinellas County prosecutor. He desperately wanted to prove he was more than just the heir to the summer's Eve vaginal douche fortune. As part of the settlement, he offered to take Jemay LLC off the market, privatize her, and cancel all her debts if she agreed to stop commoditizing herself and become a stay-at-home mom for his twin sons, Aiden and Aben. As a hot bougie, he couldn't stand her petty ways and forced her to sign a contract to protect the privacy of his children. Brandon was hussed off like some last season's skort and spent most of his days either at boarding school, at throwaway camps, or resigned to the darkness of the twirling closet of his mansions, his oceanfront mansion in Ratmouth, Florida. As a forgotten one, he skated through Ratmouth's fourth most prestigious boarding and horsing school. Here he hobnobbed with all the off-brand heirs, but these knockoffs knew how to throw a first-rate party. The heiress to the Hot Pockets fortune dished hot gossips with her golden knishes. His first necking was with the entrusted heir to the Red Vines fortune, while the Hydrox issue cowered in the corner and cried, all too aware that they had grown rich from vessels gorging on their unhealthy treats. The always hilarious Zamboni grandson had a certain way of breaking the ice in any room. And from Oshkosh, the Bagash twins brought the best drugs tucked into one of their overalls' 18 pockets. But which one? Guessing was always such great party fun. But Brandon longed for a more meaningful life than what sugar sticks and greasy and meat and cheese pods could bring him. But his childhood had been so unremarkable. Like all bougies, he learned the skills of maid parading and the exacting science of social stratification. He knew how low he hung on the bougie ladder, much lower than his stepbrothers. But he found ingenious ways to suck up to the uppers and sabotage the downers. Oh, the tragedy of being just another upper, lower, middle, petty bougie bound for a cushy yet inconsequential job in a minor trust fund. But when he entered his 16th year, he embarked on the 3-month bougie initiation into adulthood, which would forever change the trajectory of his life. The becoming of age ceremony took only 4 hours of hacksaws, dissectors, retractors, scalpels, and 2 cups of his blood. But recovery filled the remaining months as these young bougies pupated before emerging from their white gauze cocoons and shimmering as the newly transformed moths of humanity. Before he left for the solemn ceremony, his mom grabbed his hand in the surprise moment of intimacy. Someday you will ache like I ache. God, she must be guzzling skinny girl Quaaludes again. he thought. She twirled her doll parts around the room in her gossamer gown, singing, yeah, they really want you. They really want you. They really want you. They do. As the door shut behind him, he hopped into his Uber helicopter, bound for that Uber Mensch Creation Center beneath Aruba, Jamaica, and shrouded in that Montserrat mystique. With her son gone, Jamae collapsed on the ground, crying, I think it's so real. I am beyond think. And now at the Creation Center. Crack, crack, crack goes the mallet on his nose, smashing into 3 places. Slice, slice, slice goes the knife as it slides up his nostril and rips out the middle piece of his cartilage. Zoom, zoom, zoom goes the hot adhesive that fuses his truncated cartilage with his nasal bone. Buzz, buzz, buzz goes the saw, shaving his cheeks and chin to square his jaw. Although he found the result to be a tad too rumbicular. Snap, snap, snap goes his collarbone, and crank, crank, crank goes the rack, elongating his neck to baby giraffe length. So sexy. Rip, rip, rip goes the thread through his flesh as his Dumbo ears are pinned back against his skull. Snip, snip, snip goes the scissors through his eyelids before each is pulled and folded, giving him anime-sized eyes. Clink, clink, clink goes the rectangles of rock as these are slid beneath his brows to pronounce a formidable brow ridge. Zap, zap, zap goes the electrolysis laser into each follicle on his arms, armpits, back, legs, and below belly button mons pubis, damaging these so severely that each would never sprout hair again. Slurp, slurp, slurp goes the hose as it sucks the fat from his neck, thighs, and midsection. Vroom, vroom, vroom goes the titanium reinforced shell fused to his ribs to give his torso a capital V shape in a procedure known as Adam's revenge. All he remembered when he came to an opiate haze was pain and bandages. Pain and bandages. Bandages fused with pain. Pain fused with bandages. Every part of his body ached and throbbed. He had never even considered his knees undersized, but now the thousands of nerve-ending screamed bloody murder after being severed to craft his perfectly sculpted legs. His lacerated eyelids sealed to the bandages, and he howled as the nurses yanked these off daily to clean his wounds. He was scalped to implant cyber follicles that could be coated to bloom over any bald spot and could be updated seasonally with the newest, hottest hairstyles. But this itched infernally as his skin, hair, and bandages grew together as a mesh of him and it. It took 3 hours each day for the cosmetic hairdressers to cut the bandages and reseal his scalp to his head. As the swelter of super summer simmered down now, Brandon returned a new man to start his junior year in high school. All the teachers ribbed the same corny joke on the first day back from the becoming of age summer. I see a lot of new faces here today. But he was so much more than a new face. The other lesser bougies only received facial sculpting surgeries and a Groupon for a personal trainer in hopes of molding that perfect bod. But calluses are crafts, his step-papa always would say. No, Brandon was fully transformed. He's 8% silicone, 6% titanium, 2% goat hair, and 1% marble beading. And all the betas buckled before their new alpha. He had even vaulted above the RC Cola air. His stepbrothers gasped when they saw him. Sure, he still lived in their shadows. He suffered when the twins each received a thoroughbred horse sired by a Triple Crown winner, while Brandon wallowed with only a colt created through copulation with a horse that peaked at Preakness. But he got a little thrill knowing that after identical surgeries, each was just a less hot version of him. It wasn't only his peers who oohed and awed over his imposing figure. Throughout his childhood, his height, weight, musculature, body fat percentage, family medical history, and genetic information were sucked from all sources and sent to Tone Deaf Corporation. Bum, bum, bum. That was one section, and I'll read another small section, and then we can have some more wine and question and answers. Sound good? Everyone have a good time? Yes. We are jumping on over. Thanks for asking. Person in the front who I don't know whatsoever. 329. Everybody's got the fever. That is something you all know. Fever isn't a new thing. It started long ago. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn.
Everybody's got the fever. That is something you all know. Fever isn't such a new thing. Fever started long ago. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn. What a lovely way to burn.
Now to page 333. And now back to humanity's end. Maverick Mandible huffs as he heaves himself up onto the cliff's ledge. The melting snow caused by climate change unearthed new peaks along the world's tallest mountain range, the Himalayas, allowing bougies a superb way to husk off the fragility that chokes their masculinity, to discover and climb a brand new peak. How manly, how virile. Maverick grabs his air tube and takes 3 huffs of oxygen mixed with amphetamines. Sure, anyone with $436 million to spare could slaughter a mildly sedated lion with a rocket launch from a distance of 100 yards. And for $326 million, anyone could scuba harpoon Earth's largest land mammal. A blue whale cut off its 10-foot-long penis and mount it above his mantle. But his university chums, Aaron and Balake, had already done this. No, he needed to prove he could go where no man has gone before. Behind him, his team of 6 Sherpas hauls 463 pounds of his glamping gear. On their backs, groaning their way through the 3rd trek along this path that month. This was a real men's sport for real men. Using drones and robo-Sherpas would have been cheating. Hashtag totes gauche. Maverick would summit with only authentic human help. After every visit, the Sherpas made sure to clear any sign of any previous paid conqueror. This meant removing each mountaineer's flag bearing the family's crest flying over that new peak, along with every empty bag of cheesy poops. When they reached the summit, the Sherpas knew they discovered this peak at least a dozen times. They carefully placed their cash cow at a different angle along the same peak. Since more snow melted daily, this created the illusion of a new mountaintop with new views. Perfect for social media bragging. Maverick trudges through the snow, wheezing from the elevation and delirious with the daydreams of how he'd laugh up this adventure at the Explorers Club. Beneath woolly mammoth tusks while wearing jaguar fur pelts. Before a dinner barbecue genetically rebred American lion. How he loves a hearty meal of re-engineered megafauna. Sure, the 18-foot-tall ground sloths were a bit gamey, and the 10-foot-tall thunderbirds and giant emus disappointed in that they were less satisfying than his normal genetically optimized chickens. But he loved the virality he felt from noshing on the tasty testes of a saber-toothed tiger. I'm the king of the world! Maverick hobbles from what he's told is the newest, highest peak on Earth. The Sherpas had long learned that they would get a better tip if they dropped all their supplies and burst into spontaneous applause when any whitey exclaimed this phrase. As he bows, Maverick trips and face plants into the permafrost. The sun had just melted a new layer of snow, and under this, a sparkle springs. As he struggles to get up, he sees this shimmer. He yells to his Sherpas, dig it out. He couldn't possibly do it himself. His leather gloves are equipped with heating rods, restricting his dexterity. Plus, he doesn't want his soft hands to get cold and wet. Oh, how vulgar. He shudders at the thought. They unearth a human hand clenched as a claw. As they dig, a whole body appears, perfectly preserved. A gold ring reflects the sun's photons in hues of yellow. Maverick dives for the ancient artifact, probably centuries old, one of a kind, and mine. Oh, mine. How sad he had been when he realized that all the graves had long since been robbed. The pyramids pilfered, the sarcophagi snookered, the temples trounced, the castles kleptos, and the churches churned through, until nary a chalice or stained glass window still stood. Everything that sparkled was still priceless, tied to an alluring history, and sold to the highest bidder. Even the vestigial petty bougie issues of European royals auctioned off their ancestors' tombs to be cracked open so their jewels and crowns and scepters could be ripped from their cold, dead hands. But this was different. He felt like a raider of some lost ark. The stories, the fame, all his. He demands the Sherpas cut off the hand and place it into a hermetically sealed bag. They can use the bag that kept yesterday's underpants dry, starched, and ready to be worn to put on. Ah, nothing like the feeling of hot long johns hugging his scrotum, warming each testicle until it descended that extra half inch. The Mandeville ring could be his, could be a new sensation. Dizzy with these daydreams, he takes a paltry 14,382 photos and only 738 4D videos of his summit so he could quickly descend and have the ring checked. He races to the base and finds a hospital in Pokhara, Nepal. He wobbles from office to office, screaming, "Do you know who I am?" while waving a wad of cash. Finally, a pathologist who is attack pathological grabs the bag and promises to analyze its contents for the heavy-handed bougie. When the results arrive, she demands Maverick pay her double before she divulges. The hand is 2,842 years old, from a 28-year-old Cheherty man, as she begins to describe how odd it is that a human body should be found so far from known archaeological sites. Maverick snaps the finger and slides off the ring. "Doc, I don't need a history lesson." He rams the hand back in the bag and huffs at the door. "Wait! On the hand, there's a pustule about to..." Slam. He's out the door, down the hall, and into the parking lot. Maverick climbs into his Hummer limo. Before it takes off, he rolls down the window and tosses the hermetically sealed bag into a dumpster next to the hospital. He thinks nothing of damning all of humanity as he grabs a bottle of champagne and pops it to celebrate his bravery. And this is the way humanity ends. Not with a bang, but with a pop. Thank you for joining me today, and if you like this, please pick up or pay for the coffee that you've got. We've got plenty more wine, plenty of cookies, and I would love to have a conversation with you guys. And we can still dance here too! So, how's everyone doing?
Good.
You, sir?
What's been the highlight of your book tour so far?
Oh, I am so fascinated by how I hiked to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and there is a backcountry like camping that you can get a permit for $8, and then right next to it is the really fancy ranch that's there. So of course you set up your tent, you lay in the river to like get all the sweat off of you, and then you go to the fancy ranch, and then you like get yourself some nice chocolate and some wine, and then I just started like chit-chatting with the lady behind the counter, and it was late, and it was only the two of us there, and she's like, "Well, what are you doing driving around the country?" And I was like, obviously, I'm a sci-fi author who's a drag queen who's reading excerpts of my book in beautiful different national parks. And then you just saw her door slams. Apparently she was Google searching this author in persona. I was like, I love all of this. Wine's on me for the rest of the night, and then tomorrow night, all the people who work at the ranch, all the people here would love to like take you out for drinks. So, it was wonderful, and they try to get me ranched. You have to watch out. I learned what being ranched is. Which means that they get someone so drunk that they're unable to wake up before sunrise because it was August and it was 105 degrees. So you have to get up before sunrise to begin the 7-hour trek out of the Grand Canyon. So climbing that rim. I mean, it only took me like 3 glasses of wine to get me really drunk, but I still woke up in plenty of time. So I've had like half a dozen of other stories like that, and it's just wonderful. I also did, because they have a special like donkey system to send packages down, so I left them 4 copies of the book, and the donkey could take it down to deliver them copies of the book. So I've had wonderful little experiences like that. So far it's just like wonderful, cute little anecdotes like that. And yeah, it just warms my heart to see all of y'all. And then also one of my new favorite people is Peggy back there. I met her at the Bay Area Book Fest the first day. She was like, okay, I like what you got. This looks good. I'll buy a copy of your book. And then she came up the second day, and I've told the story a dozen times. And she just comes up to me and is like, you tricked me. How dare you? And I was like, she's like, I just saw the silly outfit and like the silly bright colors, but like there's some depth to this book. There's some benefits to it. So, and she's back here today and she's buying more copies.
Everyone's getting them for Christmas.
Yeah. And also I just want to thank so many of you who supported the Kickstarter. You guys made this possible. You made this transition and this dream come true. So kudos to all of you. More questions while I drink some wine? Yes, you in the front, sir. Dr. Professor?
What about your writing process? So now that this part of the writing is over, so the story is metabolized and you're looking back on the narrative, and you're kind of going over it again as you read different parts of the country. Are there new perspectives on the story that are coming up for you, like new insights, and are there potentially new like seeds of like new stories you want to write in the future?
Yeah, thanks for asking. One of my friends who supported the Kickstarter lives in Caldwell, Idaho, and like sent me a text message because recently I believe it's Sony Music has decided that they're going to create 1,000 Whitney Houston holograms and rent them out for parties and bat mitzvahs and other things like that, which is something I joked about in the book. There's been like a few things like that where it's just kind of like a funny little quirk that have continued to come true, or there's like a whole section about Britney Spears trying to get out of her conservatorship, and that has been a long story arc that she's been dealing with for this past year, and people suddenly realizing that, oh hey, an adult woman in her mid-30s has not been able to purchase anything without her father's permission for 10 years, yet still we think that she is mentally well enough to perform for us 4 nights a week in Vegas for 2 hours, that we are like, okay, sure, horse, get out there, but that $500,000 that you make every single night, like, you can't even go to Target and pick up a toy for your kids without someone okaying that. And then process for the next book, I've had a lot of time to myself, travel around the country. I'm not sure if anyone's driven Nebraska before. You can just unfocus your eyes for 8 hours. So lots of time to daydream on the next book. And the next book, I've already decided is going to be a choose your own adventure book about time traveling.
Yes.
And it's really wonderful for me to go back to lots of different places that I've lived before and see myself at different times and feel that thread of whoever I am, connecting all the different individuals who try different careers, different paths, and just imagining that and imagining what that could look like for a new set of characters in a new book. So, working title, let's do the time warp again. Yes, you sir.
Oh yes, I was going to ask the opposite question actually. Like, is there any way in which things have moved, like the world has moved so fast that some part of the book has become dated since like you wrote it 6 months ago, like no longer makes sense? Or I don't know how many months ago you finished that final version, but
yeah. As of now, I don't think there is.
goes to say.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I was gonna say related to that, like I'm like 2/3 of the way through, and
Woo-woo!
I feel like it's still really topical.
yeah.
And so, but I'm also wondering, related to that, like, do you think you're gonna like go through it and update it, or just every year read it and just like think about it
Yeah.
to see how it's still relevant?
Yeah, I love the mixtape metaphor, so that's why I'm calling it the mixtape. And similarly, like cassette mixtape or like mixtapes that artists, particularly hip hop artists, use to kind of get their name out there. It is independently created and produced, but then always it's an open canon that can be evolved. So maybe at some point I will evolve it and change it. But also, I think certain types of art are important to be like a time capsule. Like The Great Gatsby is good to be like, okay, what were the Gilded Ages like? What were people thinking about during that time? And what was the priorities that they had? But yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of references that are kind of dated. But also, just like a mixtape that you might find 10 to 15 years later that your best friend made you, you still listen to it and you remember what it was like the first time you enjoyed it. And you're like, oh, that's what I thought, that's what I enjoyed. So
Maybe a remix with other authors?
sure, yeah. Always down to. And I see books as a technology, and it is one of my favorite technologies, but I also love the idea of how can we deepen and enrich our experiences with books. So every chapter here is a music track, because it's a mixtape, and you can see the songs here. On the front page, you can see the website that I've made, that I have YouTube and Spotify playlists of all the tracks in the book, so you can listen along. And then I also, do you guys know the Genius.com music lyrics site? So there's 2,200 plus references in this book, and then I've annotated the entire book, and it's on the website. So if you're ever like, wait, is he alluding to like a random YouTube video or something? You can like go as deep as you want. So like, even though I love the analog technology, I'm very fascinated and interested on like what are digital possibilities. And also like, I've been driving around the country and then hiding like as far as like 170 signed and smooch copies of the books in different little free libraries in Nebraska and Iowa and El Paso, Texas. And like people have actually been finding them and messaging me online being like, I'm so excited to read this looks great. But I'm very excited to like, especially if I do some sort of choose your own adventure book with the next thing, then I could maybe hide things in different places like that and create a scavenger hunt for it. So it's like, okay, there's the physical book, which we all love, but like, how can we make it an event, an experience? And clearly, I'm not sure how many book readings you've been to that had multiple people on stage dancing around. So, yeah. You were there, Peggy.
As you were putting together the songs that were inspiring the pieces of, did you ever go to like, do you just look up the lyrics to the song, actual lyrics, and go, oh crap, that's not what I thought it was?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a different song.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's why I really like presenting the songs at the beginning of every chapter completely denuded of the music and the melodies that we're so used to, because oftentimes you're like, oh, that's ridiculous. I'm too sexy for my cat. And those are our first messages. Those are our Radio Gaga. Completely insanity, yeah.
can I say, yeah, also like with those, the music quotes in the beginning, I felt like sometimes I felt really sad when I read them, like they would sound really depressing, you know, when you actually read the notes
Yeah.
or the lyrics, and then other times, yeah, it's really smart what they're saying, and so I appreciate that. I think you can get different things out of those, the lyrics.
Yeah, and part of the reason that I also did that is because there's so many like nonfiction books that I read that always start every chapter with like 2 smarty pants quotes from someone that I'm not sure the author actually read, but I'm pretty sure the author had an editorial assistant that had to just go look online for like, what did Socrates say about something? Let me take like 2 or 3 words, and like, look how great and smart I am. And I was just like, what is the exact opposite of that? Let me take the worst pop song and transcribe just the lyrics and put them there. You, sir, Sparkles.
What was the genesis of all this? Like, yeah, what made you want to do this? How did you come up with the idea?
This specific book, so I had, some of you guys know, I've been working on a previous book project for about 2.5 years, and it was a nonfiction book project. It was about schizophrenia in my family, and like this family secret, and then me like visiting lots of institutions, talking with some of the doctors who were still alive. Long, like tragic story, like wrote a 60-page book proposal, and then like got a fancy agent in New York City who promised me the sun and the moon up above if I signed with him. And so signed with him, then we worked probably every 2 or 3 days, emails back and forth, revising that proposal for the first month. And then once it was ready, he was like, okay, I'm gonna start sending them out. Never responded to me. So every 6 weeks I would send polite emails. He was at one of the top literary agencies in the world. And I was just like, how's it going? I know you're busy, but like, I'm still signed up to you, and I'm still legally obligated to. He can only be the only person, you know, pitching the story and putting it out there. So 11 months go by of me doing polite 6 weekly emails, and then I went sniffing on him.
Yes.
You all know what I did. I baked some chocolate-covered peanut butter balls, overnighted them to his office with that note. Thank you for all your hard work on this. I'm so excited to hear how it's going. Let me know at your earliest convenience. And then nothing. Still no response after that. So then I sent an email to the head of the agency, because it's such a weird position that you are in. You don't really want to like push or like be too, you know, difficult. No one wants to be too difficult, and this is the person who's advocating for you, but you're still kind of stuck with him. So then I sent an email to the head of the agency and CC'd him, and I was like, oh, I haven't heard back from him in this amount of times, and here are the 8 or 9 times I've contacted him by email, phone, and letter. Is he okay? Bus accident, something happened. And so, of course, that agent responded within like 10 minutes, like, oh my God, I was just about to email you.
Oh, yeah.
And then like sent me all these responses. He had been sending it out to different publishing houses. They had like agonized over it. Some of them had written like 3-page responses about what it was that I had been working on, like what were the pros and cons, why they decided to pass on it. All of which could have helped me to like redraft the proposal and work on something, make it better and stronger. But instead, I just, waited politely for over a year, and some of the doctors that I had been interviewing had died by that time. So like the story was escaping my hand, and I really hated that I waited for permission to begin writing. And I was like, okay, what is something that would fill me with joy, that will light a fire underneath me, that I will have a really great time working on, that I can take from idea to complete conception by myself and bring it out into the world, and let me see how far I can go with that. And you guys are holding it! That's a long roundabout way of where it came from. And similar, has anyone seen Contact, the movie, before? Yeah, it's just pretty much like the inverse of that. Like, their radio waves are coming to us from an alien race, but our radio waves are pumped out to the galaxy, and imagine that as our first interstellar messages. And once you get that idea, you're like, oh, obviously, it's a mixtape. Obviously, music tracks are each of the different songs. And obviously, it's our obsession with pop culture that, ends up causing our downfall. So, kind of fell together, and then I liked writing it, and people have liked reading it, so. Yeah.
Having invested your time in such a profoundly personal story, the one you were going to tell before,
Mm-hmm.
and having it sit out there for that period of time, do you think it's something you'll go back to, or is it kind of
Absolutely.
painful to take that,
Yeah.
to be so personal and have it ignored?
Yeah. It was very hard to do that, and also so I'll give everyone, I know most of y'all, my father entered his high school with a sawed-off shotgun, tried to kill his principal and a few other people. He ended up being, thankfully the gun didn't dislodge in the wrong sort of way, but he was 15 years old, was sent to, rather than go to the penal system, this was in 1958, so he went to a state mental hospital where they diagnosed him as paranoid schizophrenic, and then he actually lived at the state mental hospital in Connecticut for the next 4 years. This was at the height of when there's lots of terrible things that happened at mental hospitals, but this was before a lot of the funding was being taken away. There were bowling alleys there was music therapy, and he was able to be taken out of a kind of abusive home and into an environment that he actually could thrive in. So that was the story that I was working on. And I still think there can be a way in which I can tell it, but also now that I feel like I've done this by myself, I can, tell it, and also maybe it doesn't have to be just like a book that has to have a narrative arc, it has to solve all the world's problems, but it can just be another sliver in this ongoing story that our country needs to have about mental illness. So, thanks for asking. Yeah, and hopefully I can bust out another 10 to 15 books in my lifetime. So it's really fun, visiting independent bookstores, in El Paso. And they're like, yeah, I'll buy 5 copies. Oh, you've got a fun outfit for your author profile? Go put it on and I'll take photos of you. And I was like, okay. And they're like, we'll put it on our Instagram. But these are people who hopefully I can create relationships in the next, 5 or 6 decades. And then hopefully I can get a nicer van in the future that has a fridge in it. And then, drive around the country every 2 to 3 years and then do larger events. And, what do you say?
With a new party dress.
Yeah, with a new party dress. I mean, I'm very excited because, this is, of course, CDs, these are cassettes, and this is a record that I spray painted gold. It's, of course, a Richard Simmons workout tape. It's him singing Broadway show tunes while telling you to do squats. But, imagining for, a time-traveling choose-your-own adventure book, what could that outfit be like? And also, I imagine in 4 or 5 years, hologram technology will become a lot cheaper. So you might see 4 or 5 of me in the room.
So I've been loving all the pictures, the YouTubes of you at national parks, but why all the pictures and YouTubes of you at national parks? Explain that.
As we talk about the end of humanity, and also as religiosity declined in our country, I really wanted to explore what are the places that are the most sacred and the most beautiful, and also that have been around for tens of millions of years before humans, and will continue to be around, long after humans are gone. I mean, sadly, Glacier National Park, it started out with 150 glaciers only 100 years ago, and we're down to 25 glaciers, so get there fast. 10 years for the last glacier before the last glacier melts, so. But yeah, so I've been, as someone who needs to still make a name for themselves, I thought, well, why not go to the most beautiful, wonderful places that I have always wanted to visit, and then just kind of queer up those spaces, and then just remind people how gorgeous these places are. So, yeah. Any other questions? People want some wine and snacks? Yeah. Oh my God.